All right, everybody, welcome to the Massachusetts Real Estate Agent Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Tom Caffarella, and we've got an exciting and a guy with a unique background coming on today by the name of Josh Brett. Josh, what's going on?
Tom, thanks for having me today. A lot's going on. The sun is out in the middle of January, end of January, so the market is hot.
Yep. Yeah,
And
the sun being out, you can't complain. What is it, January 26th today? So we had, some crazy weather a couple weeks back, but everything's pretty good as of right now.
Absolutely. It's really interesting how the market warms up with a sunny day or a couple in a row. That's what we're experiencing right now in Boston today.
So what are you seeing? Because as we're kind of hosting this, I get all different feedback from everybody, and my team, we fix and flip about 100 houses a year. So we get almost instant market feedback with buyers. But what are you seeing as of right now with the market? Do you think we're going to see a pretty strong 2018, or are you seeing, a little bit of kind of, pushback and maybe a little bit of softening in the market?
I see a very strong 2018 coming up. And a responsibly strong 2018 compared to 17. I think that growth will be strong, yet healthily not as much as 2017, which was a little less than the year before it.
Yep.
I think that's a good sign overall.
Yeah. Things have kind of got, a little bit crazy in the past couple of years. And I'm always, my number one thing right now is like, how much longer is this kind of going to last for? And we can hit on that later. I do want to jump into your background, which is an interesting one. So you grew up on a farm, right?
I did, yeah. I was born and raised on a Christmas tree farm called Homegrown Farms by my parents. And they left the fast-paced world to raise us as a self-sustainable farm. It was really cool, very different.
So what were they doing before they decided to do that?
They were both in the commercial banking world. My father was a commercial loan officer, and my mother was a teller, and her mother was a teller. So we're bankers for general. And they had enough, giving away all of their time to work and not enough time to spend with us. And they decided, hey, let's try this wild and crazy idea and open up our own farm, and we'll work it together, see how it goes. And it worked out.
Yeah, I think the thing that kind of frustrates me the most about kind of where we're at today is like with the technology that we have, people can be anywhere, working from anywhere. There could be so much flexibility, but yet there still isn't. There's, very rigid structures for most types of jobs, real estate not being one of them. But for me, I had an accounting background, and I couldn't do it. I kind of really made the same type of decision that your parents made, was that I can have a really successful career, but I'm going to hate it. And it's not going to make sense for me. It's not going to make sense for my family. And so that's what actually got me into real estate. But so you grew up on that farm that was in Connecticut. When did you start to get over to Massachusetts, or first start even thinking about getting involved in real estate, period?
Well, we were raised to have an interest in real estate, not even knowing it, because the farm's model was small amounts of income to pay the mortgage, and the real process was to pay off the mortgage and have the 60 acres of the farm to have. So that kind of subtly got me interested into real estate and real estate, and helping others to do the same.
Mm-hmm. So I know you went to Northeastern. Was that when you moved to Boston?
Yes. In 2004, when I started at Northeastern, that brought me from Connecticut to Boston. And that was my first introduction to what I call a big city, from being raised on a farm.
Yeah, probably some major differences, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot more fast paced, a lot more technology.
And did you immediately like it, or did you take a while to kind of get used to it?
I did immediately like it. Yeah, it was really exciting to have so much going on. And, even if I wasn't participating in all the concerts and events going on, it was nice to know that I could and get to know people.
So you got started in real estate on the rental side, right?
I did, yeah. In Boston, it's kind of traditional, it seems like, to get your feet wet with the rentals, see if you like the tempo and the pace and the expectations. And I really did. And I was very grateful to get a strong start with rentals that led me to my interest in helping people own their own homes and really build stability through that.
So did you start in the rental business right out of college, or were you doing it while you were actually in college?
I got my license right as I was about to graduate in December of 2007.
Hmm.
And as I did hang that license in an office and start to work before graduating. So about 2 weeks before actually graduating, I had my license, had it hung, and was starting to work my sphere and learn the process.
So I think this is kind of one of the big debates out there. People always talk about it, the difference between, especially for new licensed people. Do I go into the rental business, or do I go right to sales, or do I go to rental and then sales? Given that you went from rental to sales, I mean, what's your kind of take on that at this point?
I feel rentals is a great introduction as it gives you the idea of how fast everything goes, what people expect. And there's a lot more responsibilities in sales. People are really trusting and relying on you to protect them against the market, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we genuinely are able to just want to help our clients improve their lives, I find that's the key to being in sales in real estate.
And on the rental side, you're saying it's kind of like you're almost just like opening up a door type of thing, not really a relationship. What's the biggest difference on that side?
So I formed a lot of relationships through rentals, very strong with the people I helped find the apartments as well as the landlords. Yet interactions are kind of small and they feel so much more connected when we're helping them to buy a home. There's more emotion involved. There's a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of emotion and strategy with rentals, yet it is a whole nother ball game with sales.
So I think another thing that people kind of really struggle with, especially rental versus sales right out of the gate is, and I don't know rentals that well. I don't have a background in rentals. I don't, personally, I've never done any. The thing that I always hear is that you can make money on day one in rentals, but it's a lot more difficult in sales. Do you feel that way? And if you do feel that way, how did you get kind of past year one in the sales business?
I absolutely agree with that. It is much easier to get a paycheck in the first 3 months with rentals, where it's nearly impossible to with sales. So it's quite the barrier for entry. What I did was save every dime that I could from rentals and live inexpensively to get into sales because I knew that's what I wanted to do as a long-term career improvement, and it's a commitment of mine. So I did whatever it took. Taking the bus instead of driving, eating macaroni and cheese instead of eating out, whatever it took.
And so you talked a little bit about saving and almost giving yourself kind of a landing kind of a little bit of space to kind of go. How long do you think you need to get into sales?
Whenever a newer agent asks me how long it would take to really get into sales, I suggest that they should anticipate 6 months without a reliable income at all.
Yep.
And the reason to set that expectation is because if somebody comes into the industry and needs a paycheck in 2 months, that puts a bit of extra pressure on everybody.
Yeah, it's just hard to predict. I mean, you could do a deal in your first 60 days, but that deal that you're doing, who knows, that buyer could decide, I'm getting sick of looking, and they might go to renting. So it's one of those things. I struggle with it as a brokerage owner, even giving people 100%, but the best advice for them, because I feel like you feel that the sales part is a better career. But then there are people that right out of the gate, they need a paycheck in 2 weeks. So if you need a paycheck in 2 weeks, I mean, it's just not even possible to really even do sales. But what now you were probably doing, I'm going to make the assumption you were probably doing pretty decent on the rental side. You were getting paychecks. What made you realize that you wanted to do sales instead of rentals? I mean, like, how did you even know without doing sales that kind of made more sense for you?
Well, it's really about leveraging the real estate environment for the bettering of individuals. For example, you pay your monthly rent checks. That doesn't help the person paying it, my client. It helps the landlord. What I want to do is help that client to have those same benefits. Specifically, I transitioned from rentals to sales and bought my first closing was a house that I bought with my brother, 3-family. We were each
Yep.
living in one of the units and we rented out the other one. That helped to take the sting off of the transition. It also was my first sale, so it showed me what it's like to be a buyer in an emotional purchase with everything online, putting your heart and soul out there. And so that really led me to understand how much meaning I would be adding to people's lives if I was able to help them buy the right home or sell in transition and further leverage that home once they've grown out of it.
So for you, it's almost like you didn't believe in what you were selling type of thing. You didn't believe in the rental part of it. You believe in people should have home ownership. So it was like the product you were selling is really what you wanted to sell, more or less.
That's exactly right, Tom. With that said, there certainly is a time and a lot of scenarios where it's appropriate to rent, including if
Yep.
somebody's planning to stay in their purchase for 3 years or more, it's something to really evaluate whether it makes sense to purchase. In those scenarios and others, absolutely makes sense to rent. There's nothing wrong with that. I wanted to really leverage, like you're saying, my passion and interest in selling what I believe in, which is financial and houseonomic growth, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in various types of sales my whole life, and I can really only sell the things I believe in, and something that I don't believe in, I won't sell it.
So year one in the business, how did you get past that? Because that's the biggest thing that newer agents struggle with, getting past year one, getting past the first even 18 months. What did you have to do besides the financial things that you set yourself? You mentioned, obviously, you gave yourself 6 months, you live frugally, all that stuff. So you set yourself up on the financial side. But then on a day-to-day basis, how did you go out from nothing and get buyers and sellers?
Well, nothing was off limits for prospecting. I did the types of prospecting that a lot of people don't like. So I did the cold calling. I did my farming. I went and continued to do rentals and really hustled and really followed through. And really what grew my business, in addition to doing the prospecting items that not everybody wants to do, the lower end, the cold calling and such, is I just did my best with everything that I could. And when people see that and they're renting and they're thinking about buying, they remember that. At least I found. So a lot of our renters became buyers without me really anticipating that was exactly what was going to happen. But that started happening regularly. And then I realized that, hey, the market, our clients are really responding to our level of effort. And so that was very reassuring to see that. And that was really the jet fuel that helped the transition from rentals to sales.
So let's talk about, you mentioned doing some of the stuff that people don't want to do, the prospecting side. What does that look like for you? Are you blocking off a certain amount of time per day? Who are you calling? What are you saying type of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. My first farm was Jamaica Plain 3-family houses because
That's a great farm right there. You could do 2 sales a year and make a living there in 3-family Jamaica Plain.
Yeah, and once in a while, the sellers of multifamilies, they don't necessarily want to address the full market and their tenants with showings and everything. So that first person who responded to these calls said, I'm not going on market, but if you want to buy it, this is what I'd sell it to you for.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any money at the time. So my brother and I took out a small loan from our parents, got a 3% down mortgage at the time, and scrapped a down payment together and bought the house. So I was my first client, and
Yeah.
my first client. So that helped help the movement as well.
So I think like one of the things that we do at our brokerage and we think is important is, so I have an investment business where I do tons of fix and flips. And the cool thing about where we are is that when we cold call, instead of saying, hey, let me tell you the market value of your home, it's let us make you an offer. And one of the reasons why it's so effective is that, just like you kind of mentioned, a lot of sellers, they may know an agent or they may think they know an agent or whatever, but if you're able to bring them a cash offer, or even in your case, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be cash, just an offer period. A lot of times they do want to sell, but for whatever reason, they just don't want to disturb tenants because tenants might stop paying or they might get annoyed with the showing. So there's a lot of opportunity just kind of using that particular script. So you were calling on Jamaica Plain threes. You bought your first lead, pretty much your first deal. What about after that? Were you continuing to farm that area, and how did you kind of turn some of those calls into either listings or any business whatsoever?
Yeah, absolutely. I continued making those calls regularly. I found the patterns of when people answered and were most receptive. And for my patterns, it was between 8 and 8:45 a.m. and then from 6:30 to 7:15 p.m. So I'd make calls 3 days out of the week during those times. And at first my pitch was, hey, if I were to bring you an offer, how much would it have to be for you to be interested? Mm-hmm. After a while, I switched my pitch over to, is there anything that I can do to help you improve your housing life, as I'm a local real estate agent?
And what was the difference in outcome between those two different scripts?
The first one was met by resistance most time, as part of my farm was people who hadn't sold or bought in the past 7 years. So those people had probably felt like I was asking them to sell their home that they have loved. And while I switched the approach to asking what I could do to help them improve their housing lives, often that started in conversation, which then led to dialogue and relationships that I still have and value today. For example, someone often would say, hey, I need a contractor, or I have a vacant apartment, or I have a troubled tenant I might need some advice with. Or ideally, they might say, hey, this is too much for me to handle now, and I'd like a small fixed up condo, and I'd like to stay in town. Something of that, where I can put together a creative package of how to further leverage that initial investment and turn that into either a different multifamily that they then outsource property management to for income, and a fixed up local condo, depending on how the pieces work. But there's solutions to everything. Whatever somebody answers that question with, how can I improve your housing life? There's an answer to, because there's a solution to everything.
I think one key kind of nugget that you just mentioned that I think a lot of times it's difficult for any people in sales to kind of get is you've got to provide value first before anything else. And if you provide value first, the sale becomes easier. And so one of the things that you kind of alluded to is the fact that there's a lot of different potential housing problems and potential housing solutions that real estate agents can provide. And if you're always going in it kind of one track, are you selling? And then if they're not selling, you kind of lose that person. You don't build a relationship, and you're almost just like, it's going to be luck. Like, did you get to them at the exact time that they're thinking about selling, versus what your pitch is, which is that build value first, get the conversation flowing, build the relationship, and then you'll get the business on the back end. So was that a script that was recommended to you, or was that just something like you're making these calls and you're like, let me just try something a little bit different and see how it performs?
Yeah, it was really just that. At first, I'd overthink it, write my script, follow it strictly. And then after a while, I started to ease up and just be myself and start to have fun with it. And that's when things changed, because, I want to help people. I don't want to take somebody's home and sell it to somebody else if they don't want that. But if they could benefit from that transition, and if I could further leverage the equity and investment that they've made, then that is of huge interest to me, because that's what gives me meaning. And I know that it's helped a lot of people to be able to have that creative third-party thinking where, it gets a little complex when you're dealing with 1031 exchanges and a portion of it being capital gains tax-free, with scenarios, it ends up getting complicated, but that's part of our agent's job, and I always see my job as more than just selling for top dollar and creative negotiating strategies for buyers. It's really about strategy, overall picture, guidance, and protection. So with that, there's a lot of creative solutions to, again, however anybody answers that question, how can I help you improve your housing life?
I love it. So you are obviously kind of doing it for yourself. one person operation. At what point did you start thinking, man, I've got to get more help. I want to start building out a team. And how long ago was that?
Yeah, 2015. So what's that? 8 years into the business, I was ready for a sabbatical, right? And I wasn't able to take that because I had a lot of clients that I had made commitments to, and I wasn't willing to break those commitments. I said I'd be available nights. I said I'd be available weekends. I said I'd be available whenever, and
Mm-hmm.
I was. After a while, my wife started saying, "Hey, let's go on a trip." So I then realized that, hey, I need some help because if I go away for this long weekend, I'm going to miss a commitment that I made to somebody that's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so starting to balance my commitments at home and my commitments at work led to me realizing that, hey, I need to lean into the power of teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I was very fortunate as a esteemed colleague of mine who sits next to me. We started talking and realized, we really thought the same way and had some complementary skills and interests, both long-term Jamaica Plain residents. And we started working together, casually at first on a transaction or two. And then it came to a full-time, full business partner sort of arrangement where we really got in a groove, worked our systems, our customer service levels rose, and we're able, this is the most fun part for me, we're able to each focus on the parts of the job that we like, which is really unique. I like the prospecting, I like the going to networking events and, meeting clients and, doing all that stuff. And my partner would like more of that, making sure that once we've gotten the client's attention and we found the property that everything goes according to plan and nothing happens to it.
Have you ever read this book?
I have not. I'm
This is
interested.
this is a book that you should read. It's called Traction, and you've already figured out 90% of it. But basically, in any business on any team, there's going to be two types of people. There's going to be a visionary, who's you, who's the one who likes sales, who's the one that's kind of forward thinking. And then there's going to be a person that's called an integrator. And the integrator basically services the business. The integrator is the systems person. It's the person who doesn't want to make those calls. It's the person who doesn't want to do the sales. And the problem, especially for real estate agents, and that's not a real estate agent book, it has nothing to do with real estate. But the biggest issue that most teams and most businesses have is that we're only one or the other. We're either the person that likes the systems and likes to get into the nitty gritty and likes to get into the detail and likes to service the business, or we're the salesperson, the one with all the ideas and all that stuff. So the problem is that the salesperson that has all the ideas and gets super excited about things, once they lock something up, they want to go out and they want to do that again, right? They don't want to be taking the day-to-day phone calls of servicing the business or talking about systems and getting organized. And then the other person, the integrator, typically wants to run the business. They like the systems, but they don't want to do the forward thinking sales part, all that kind of stuff. And so when you only have one or the other, what typically happens in real estate is that the the visionary type person is always out getting deals, and then their clients are complaining about them because they aren't servicing, they're not really 100% delivering on their promises. Even though they want to keep the promises, it's just not in their nature to slow down. And then the other person on the other side, all they want to do is basically deliver on the promises, but they don't even want to go out there to make the promises to begin with. So it's an interesting book. It's on Audible. It's definitely worth reading, but you've kind of already figured it out because you've already matched those two personalities together. But it kind of talks a little bit about how to leverage both personalities. And at the end of the day, if you're the one who wants to be like out in front, you should never be the person doing anything on the back end because it's going to slow down the team structure completely.
You're absolutely right, Tom. And it's really interesting how these books are written before I've done what we've already done, and they've written about those things. I've been reading this book called The E-Myth. It sounds similar, and I value the information there. 90% of the system isn't a working system. So I know we have a lot to learn, and I look forward to reading that book, Traction. So I'll definitely be putting that on the list. And a large part of it, like you're saying, like you're implying here, is choosing team up with the right person
Yep.
and people. My team member, Susan Scheel, who's my esteemed colleague that I teamed up with in 2016 and then formed Next Door Realty team at Unlimited Sotheby's International Realty in 2017 and have been going very strong with that since. We're looking to grow this year to a third and a fourth member. And things are going really well, further integrating our precise roles to the pieces that we like.
So tell us about that. Like, how does your team kind of operate on a day-to-day basis? Who does what, and what's the big value prop for the next person that's going to join your team?
Yeah. Currently, our workflow is in tandem, where I'm meeting with the client, signing listings, meeting with buyers, getting them interested in meeting with us. And our first meeting forward, my partner, Susan, becomes the expert. And I get them in the door, and Susan lets them know exactly what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be doing it, and builds the reassurance for them that, hey, I'm not just with a salesperson who is making commitments without the intention to follow through. No, we have a system to follow through on everything. When I was growing the business up through 2015, initially, I saw a lot of lenders and other co-servicers who would get too busy and then quality would fail. And then I'd have to find somebody else for their role. And I wasn't going to let that happen to us, which is why I was so lucky to team up with Susan Scheel and start to form that team. From there, we've grown past that in a little over a year or so as Next Door Realty team. And what we're looking to do today, starting going forward, is team up with a buyer's agent, full-time buyer's agent, where the value proposition is, you want to work with active buyers? Great. This is your position, because my role is to supply you with the buyers who are active, ready to look at properties, transact, are pre-approved. And if something changes within that, great. You let me know. I'll bring them back, put them in our incubation system, make them know that they're important to us. And then when they're ready to get back out and look, I hand that back to you as the buyer's agent to service them and do what most people consider to be the fun part, looking at the properties, negotiating. And you always have me to lean into, full market knowledge, do this full time, been doing it for 11 years, help with the negotiations and strategies. I'm there at the meetings with our clients. Yet really it's you as the buyer's agent who are responsible for the integrity of our service to the client. That's teamwork for you. So,
yeah, I almost think it should be mandatory for newer agents to join teams. It's kind of unfortunate that it isn't that way, and it's unfortunate that I think the majority of people don't join a team, because the reality is that, I mean, my brokerage specifically, like, we focus on newer agents, getting them trained, getting them the systems, the tools. We have support people to go to, but most agencies don't have that, and most agencies actually fail newer agents because they sign on, they give them a little bit of training, there's no one to go to, they don't know how to learn the business, they don't have leads. So what you're offering is really not a guarantee, because no one can guarantee you're going to be successful in year one. You've got to put the work in, but you're giving somebody the best chance to succeed. You're giving them leads, you're giving them the person to go to, you're giving them a team. So the way that person would fail is if really they're not putting in the effort. Whereas if they're not on a team, they could still put in the effort, but just not know what to do. And they could put in the effort and not have leads. So there's all these little problems that in year one and year two, and even people that are year 2 and 3 in the business, some of them could really still benefit from joining these teams because of all the knowledge and support and the tools. So, and especially a buyer's agent in this market, I mean, you've got to have leads, I think. I mean, it's very difficult to kind of come, because you've got to learn so much on day one in the business that if you don't have leads out of the gate, there's so many other things to do that you've really got to make those you've got to succeed within those first 6 months, or else you're probably not going to be able to stick around. So the plan for 2018 is to take on, is it 1 new agent, 2 new agents? Do you have any specific goals for that?
Yeah, 1 full-time buyer's agent. And if they're able to service the number of clients, buyers that we have, there won't be a need for a second agent right away until we get to that. Because I'm not looking to grow for the sake of growing. I'm looking to grow because it's helpful for the clients and helpful to the people who we bring on our team. This isn't about me. This isn't about my partner. This is about the clients and the team. This is about bringing people on to win. And specifically, like you mentioned, I'm looking to supply the opportunity to an aggressive, dedicated, caring person to be a full-time buyer's agent and get the service of supplied, ready to transact and interact leads that I was hoping that I would be able to find when I started a while ago.
Mm. So, but you never joined a team, right? You kind of just did it on your own, right?
I'd never heard of teams. I didn't know that's how you could do that,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, we're pretty much, I'm a little bit older than you, but not by much. I don't know that, were they even that popular back then? I don't know that the model was really there.
No, it seems to really be something that's taken off in the last maybe 5 years. I've been in this for 11 years. So at first it's just, hey, everybody's running their own little business. It's a one-person business. That's what it is. You're a real estate agent. That is what you do. You run a one-person business, sole proprietorship. And then once clients got to a level where I needed help, or I could just take on new clients and not service them and devalue my integrity, which I wasn't prepared to do. It became a only option scenario. Team up with the right person who's able to complement your skills and interests, build them as an agent, build myself as an agent. And again, more importantly than both of those things, service the clients in full, building that, live by referral and live the good life philosophy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the other thing about the team structure is just that there's so many different capacities that real estate agents can be good at. And just like, I don't know if you're familiar with disc profiling and stuff like that, but everybody kind of has their own personality and their own value add to real estate. And the problem is that not everybody, really can be or should be the front person. And there's so many different ways to be involved in real estate if you're on a team to provide value to clients. So, we talked a little bit about the traction book, which basically just highlights kind of the front person and then the back end of it. The back end is so important, especially for salespeople. I mean, if you're a hardcore salesperson, almost without a doubt, you suck at the other part. Like, every single person who's high energy, loves meeting with people. Like the last thing they want to do is process paperwork. The last thing they want to do is to remember to make that follow-up call. So it's like, it's just a perfect kind of balance with the team structure. So any other kind of like, I guess besides joining a team, which I think it should almost be mandatory, what other advice would you give somebody who's year one or year two in the business to really succeed?
I'd say don't give up. Keep going. Keep focusing on the clients. You will make it if you make that commitment and keep showing up and doing the next right thing. That's how all of this stuff works. Notice the agents in your office. Notice the agents that you admire most out in the community. Go to the brokers' open houses. Go to the open houses even if you don't have clients. Meet people. Leave your cards. Follow up with them with a personal note. Learn what the people that you admire in the industry do. How do they treat people? How do they talk?
I think that's another huge thing that it's related to the team, but you've got to go to a brokerage or a team that really is going where you're going. And I think there's a lot of times where people make a decision based on where an office is located or based on a brand name or based on something that really isn't going to help them succeed. You've really got to look into, can this brokerage help me? I mean, they can't do everything for you, but can they really help me get from point A to point B? And you've got to me, almost somewhat ignore the location, somewhat almost ignore the brand name type of stuff, because those things aren't going to necessarily help you in your career.
Absolutely correct, Tom. I couldn't agree with you more. This is a people's business. Let's be honest. There's a lot of brands out there. There's a lot of systems. This is a people's business. I was very lucky when I walked in the door of my company and met my broker, John Uffland, and he welcomed me in for an interview. At the time, it was a Prudential Unlimited company, and since then, Prudential has liquidated the real estate, and now we've become part of the Unlimited, the Sotheby's International brand, which we're happy to be. A lot of value there. Unlimited Sotheby's International Realty, backed by the International Sotheby's, has a strong value proposition and gives us a lot of support in the marketing as well as the brand recognition. Somebody meets us and they might not have heard of Next Door Realty Team, but they see that we work at Sotheby's Realty in their hometown, and they know that I believe that they know that we put our all into it and are there to help them. Our official business motto at Unlimited Sotheby's International Realty is luxury is not a price point, it is an experience. And that's how we're trained. That's the culture here.
So now you've got a sign behind you. So, some brokerages allow you to do that, some don't, but so they're basically allowing you to bring your own team, right?
Yes, it's a new part of the industry, and we have formed this team and are very proud of it, and intend to continue to get additional recognition for our brokerage, Unlimited Sotheby's International Realty, and we're very excited for that. Our intention is to have a small chapter being the Next Door Realty Team at Unlimited Sotheby's Realty in Jamaica Plain.
I think it's just cool that they let you kind of, run your own team, kind of do a lot of your own branding. I mean, not everywhere, allows you to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the culture of teamwork. At Unlimited Sotheby's, we have a culture of teamwork. We work together, and everybody's working in different ways. And, we're all individual businesses that work together, essentially as a somewhat team to bring awareness to the Unlimited Sotheby's brand, where we have offices in Jamaica Plain, Coolidge Corner, Brookline, a new office in Newton. We have very strong coverage and very strong market share and cooperation and integration between all three offices. And there's a lot of individual businesses within those, not just individual agents, but also teams. And given that teams are seemingly a growing part of our industry as professionals, increases the service level for our clients, increases the ability for us as professional agents to have a healthy balance between work and home life without sacrificing customer service. And it's an honor to be a part of this growth within the industry.
So what's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you, whether they have a question about real estate or maybe even potentially learning more about joining your team?
Yeah, absolutely. Most effective would be call or text me at 617-543-4185 or email our team at nextdoorrealtyteam@unlimitedSIR.com. My partner Susan or I would be happy to talk with you, give you an idea of how the industry works, how we work, get to know, more importantly than that, what's important to you and what it is that you would be looking to put into your next career move. As I feel like real estate is a game changer, and with the structure that our team is working towards, it's the ability to focus right on the piece of the industry that you really like. Ideally, and very likely, hopefully, that is working with clients and helping them find their dream home.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on today. Tons of awesome information. I'm sure our listeners will get tons of value out of it. So I want to thank you again. And this is Tom Caffarella from the Massachusetts Real Estate Agent Mastermind podcast. I'll see everybody again next week. Thanks again, Josh.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.